Commons. I'd like to obviously join my voice with Senator Higgins in just, I suppose, how well I suppose she captured some of the larger problems at play in relation to seniors where we are. And I think especially since things have escalated in Palestine, I found myself going back to read Hegel to try and understand how progress can be so obvious in many ways, but yet history keeps repeating itself. And it's reminded me of a Hegel quote, I suppose, when people are talking about us emigrating, us seeking better, and it's like, well, why does that not resonate then when we make decisions and how we make decisions? And it reminded me of a Hegel quote, which was, we've learned from history that we do not learn from history. So then we have to think about, well, if we do not learn from history, how do we continue to, I suppose, progress in a way that's human rights based and not, I suppose, repeating what is often very harsh conditions of the past or how we treat people. And I think, well, then if it's not about history and remembering history, how is it about the decisions that we make? So I suppose my contribution is very much more looking at the technicalities of the pact in relation to how the decisions that we may make within those. And over the course of the last 12 months, my concerns were mostly in relation to how the pact interacts but also undermines the principles of human rights, equality and the fair application of international law, and how they've become more acute. During this time, the discourse around migration in Ireland has become more destructive and more reductive. This is why I believe it's more important than ever for those of us who are motivated by a sense of global justice and the protection of our shared and fundamental rights to take the opportunity to shape the discourse and the development of fair and just migratory policy. The EU has the potential to be a positive and influential actor on the international stage in the protection of human rights, equality and the fair application of international law. And indeed, the Union has demonstrated this capacity effectively in the past. But the EU's actions in recent times, Minister, whether considering certain provisions of the Pact or agreements brokered by the Union to achieve the externalisation of our borders, are effectively undermining this capacity. This is why it is so crucial that Ireland uses its voice positively and constructively in Europe to defend the principles enshrined in the Charter of Fundamental Rights. In respect of the asylum procedure regulation, I continue to be concerned about the safeguarding of minors within the broader procedure. While it is welcome that unaccompanied minors who do not pose a security concern will be excluded from the border procedure, I'm concerned about how this threat will be assessed and procedure applied. I'm also deeply worried about the erosion of standards for what is deemed a safe third country. These changes risk violating the principle of non-refoulement and further endangering vulnerable migrants, potentially seeing them placed in a country with a history of rights violations. There is significant concern in civil society that the Pact could be interpreted such that mere transit through a country could deem it safe. I am saddened that the externalisation of migration to third countries has become a prominent factor in the asylum migration management regulation. I believe solidarity through relocation must be the main focus of the mechanism, including giving priority through meaningful links. In my view, the scope of financial contributions for solidarity should be restricted to limit the ability of wealthy member states to renege on their reallocation obligations. Other financial capacity building mechanisms such as capacity building in third countries and the transfer of returns should also be restricted. The human rights safeguards within the screening regulation need to be more robust. Article 5, which allows for screening to take place within the territory of a member state, is of particular concern, as it could result in discriminatory profiling and policing of third country nationals. With regard to the crisis and force majeure regulation, the instrumentalisation of migrants and the asylum seekers to ultimately restrict their rights and derogate from EU acquis in unjust and unfair. Additionally, the proposed expansion of border procedures during times of crisis is open to abuse. Also, in relation to the condensed timeframes, I think we all want an asylum system that takes less than we currently have, but when you look at 3 months, when you're looking at the complexities of a case and when people also have experienced trauma or war, they're often told, say this, or maybe you should say that, and are given misinformation, and that could then go against them in the long run. It takes time to be able to get adequate information from people. The final concern I wish to raise is in respect of Eurodac, which will lead to the massive surveillance of migrants. This regulation will mandate a systematic collection of biometric data, which will be retained in large databases for a period of up to 10 years, exchanged freely between Member States and made accessible to police forces across the Union for the purposes of tracking and identity checks. And the minimum age for that data is also of concern, Minister. I look forward to your response, and I will be, if it comes to a vote, voting against the pact reluctantly, because again I would have liked to see it taken in parts. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.